There must be a lot of people in this situation right now because God has made it very clear to me that this should be my topic this week. So they want a second chance, and you're wondering, if I open that door again, am I just going to get sucked back into all that chaos and drama? How can I know that they really changed? How can I know for sure that it's safe to take a chance on trusting them again? Well, the answer to that is actually simple. You just need to ask yourself, what was it that you needed from them after they hurt you? What were you longing for from them that would have contributed to restoring the relationship? And what are you still longing for? Because if you're wondering if they changed, you probably haven't gotten what you needed from them. So if you're in this situation, you probably put up some boundaries because you reached a point where you couldn't take any more abuse. And now people are realizing how they mistreated you. But you're kind of enjoying your peace and quiet, and you're feeling very hesitant to open that door back up again. Open your heart to them again. So what is it that you should receive from them before you open your heart and take a chance on restoring the relationship? What are the signs that they have changed? Well, the three things that you long for after you're hurt and should get from the people who hurt you is they should fess up to their mess up. You want them to admit the wrongdoing and the part that they played in it. You want them to admit that they screwed up, and you want them to admit that what they did was hurtful. And the second thing you want is you long for a real apology. I talked about what a real apology is in my video titled My Achievements Don't Define Me, Advice to My Younger Self, Part 2. And that is on my self-empowerment playlist if you want to go back and watch that. But in a nutshell, a real apology has two parts. The part where you say, I'm sorry for the hurt that you caused. And then the part where you admit the hurt that you caused. So it should look like, I'm sorry for, and then you fill in the blank with what you did wrong. So an example of a real apology would be, I'm sorry for the rude thing that I said to you. That's a real apology. So if the apology that you received is missing one or both of those parts, then it's not going to make you feel any better. And it's definitely not coming from someone who has changed. So some other red flags for a real apology would be if it starts with the word if. An apology should never start with if, and there shouldn't be no buts attached to it. No buts attached to it that make excuses or buts attached to it that put blame on you for something. No ifs, no buts. A real apology is someone who takes total ownership of what they did, apologizes for it, regrets the hurt they caused, and admits the wrongdoing. That's a real apology with nothing else added to it. So if you want to restore a relationship, you have to get your apologies right. And the third thing that you long for after being hurt is a willingness from them to put in the time and the effort that it's going to take to rebuild your trust. Because trust is not something that magically reappears. It has to be earned. So if you sense from them a deep conviction about the pain that they caused you, and they're not coming at you with excuses, and they're not blaming you, and they're taking full responsibility for the wrongdoing, and they're not demanding forgiveness, they're not demanding that you reconcile, although you should forgive, that they should not be demanding that. They should not be putting a guilt trip on you and accusing you of being unforgiving, because the reason that you're hesitant to open your heart again, I'm sure it has much more to do with trust than it does about forgiveness. So they shouldn't be making you the bad guy with their accusations about holding a grudge or, refusing to forgive. You can forgive someone and still not reconcile with that person. You can forgive someone and still not trust that person. letting down your boundary is not part of forgiveness. So don't let them make you think that that's the way it should be. You do have the right to keep your boundary up even though you have forgiven them. So if they are still coming at you with lies and gaslighting tactics and manipulation and excuses and guilt trips in an attempt to cover up their mistake or put blame on you, then you should take that as a clear sign that they have not changed. And the only thing that they're sorry for is the negative way that your absence is affecting them. They're choosing not to do what they know they should do. And if they can't do the right thing when it's difficult, that should tell you how it's going to go for you if you do open that door again and allow them back in, give them a second chance. You know, we all make mistakes. I've made many mistakes in my life. Thought I missed something. Somewhere along the line, with all the mistakes I made, we'd be here all day if I had to list my mistakes. I openly admit I screwed up many times in my life. I mean, the list is a mile long. And like I said, we'd be here all day. But somewhere along the line, I learned that when you hurt someone, when you hurt people, you need to at least try to see the situation from their perspective. You know, if there is ever a time to put myself in someone else's shoes, it is after I hurt someone. After I said something hurtful, after I did something hurtful. You know, that is not a time for me to be prideful and say, oh, I did give a real apology when I really didn't. You know, it's not a time to think that this person is being dramatic and making a big deal out of nothing. You know, I was not on the receiving end of that pain. I have no idea how bad that hurt that person. I have no idea what that felt like. You know, I wasn't on the receiving end. So, you know, how can I possibly know the extent of the hurt that hit that person? I can't. You know, there's something about kindness that's really interesting. It's the easiest thing in the world. You know, smiling at someone is kind. Letting someone pull out in a long string of traffic, stopping your car and letting someone pull out, that's kind. You know, saying thank you is kind. Opening a door for someone is kind. These are easy things. So easy. Takes very little effort. Very easy to do. But there is one thing that makes kindness the hardest thing in the world, and that's pride. Pride is why people find it so hard to offer a real apology. Pride is why people find it so hard to admit their mistakes. You know, I've learned that loving people is far more important than loving myself and protecting my pride. And the three things that I mentioned, being able to admit your wrongdoing and offering a real apology and being willing to put in the time and the effort it's going to take to rebuild that trust, those three things can only come from someone who is willing to leave their pride in the dust and choose kindness. And anyone who is willing and able to do that definitely deserves a second chance. So I hope this helped you. If you're in this situation where you're wondering, you know, trying to decide, should you let that person back in? Should you give them a second chance? Just pray about it. You know, God's going to give you an inner knowing about every decision that you make when you just go to Him and ask and pray for answers. So I'll close with scripture, 2 Corinthians 5:10. We must all appear before the tribunal of Christ so that each may be repaid for what he has done in the body, whether good or worthless. You will be repaid for the way that you treat people. It's a sobering thought. Makes you think back on all the things you ever said and did, everything you ever did and said to someone. It makes you think back on all that. So even if you don't believe in God, you're still going to stand before him one day. You know, you're not that powerful that you can make God not exist just because you don't believe in him and you choose to reject him. So when you choose kindness, you're actually investing in your repayment on that day when you appear before the tribunal of Christ. So it's something to think about for the people who need to make things right with others. It's something to think about for everyone. So thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. You know, share it with people. Like, subscribe. I'd love to hear your comments. And my next video, believe it or not, I think I held this book up at least 3 times and promised that this was my next video, but I don't think I promised. I'm going to promise this time. So, Spirit-Led Living in an Upside Down World. We'll be doing a teaching on that book next video. It's a really good book. So, I hope you'll come back for that. Thanks for listening again, and you have a great weekend.